Welcome to Zoe Stories. They laughed at me, but I found my true self. The soft hum of the city outside my apartment never seemed so loud. Every car passing by, every distant siren, felt like it was echoing the chaos in my mind. I sank onto the edge of my bed, staring at the reflection in the mirror across the room. Alex. That was the name everyone called me. The one that lived a quiet, uneventful life as a software analyst in a small, bustling company downtown. But the reflection staring back at me tonight wasn't fully Alex. There was something else, something quieter, more delicate, yet undeniably me. For years, I had hidden it. The longing to be seen differently, to explore the softer, more feminine side of myself, had existed quietly beneath the surface. Crossdressing was never a public statement for me. It was a secret ritual, a stolen moment where I could slip into something that made my heart beat faster and my mind feel lighter. High heels, skirts, dresses, delicate jewelry, they were more than fabric and leather. They were freedom. And yet, the shame of being caught, of being judged, tethered me back to reality. Alexa, my girlfriend of 2 years, was the only person who knew fragments of this secret. She was a quiet, observant woman, sharp-witted and fiercely protective of me, though she often teased me mercilessly. Her presence could comfort and terrify me simultaneously. I longed for her approval, but feared her judgment in equal measure. Tonight, though, she was working late, and the apartment felt mine alone. "No one's watching," I whispered to myself, running my fingers along the edge of the silk blouse I had set out earlier. No one but me. The apartment was quiet, save for the soft tick of the wall clock. Cozy, modern, with sunlight-streaked walls and a bookshelf crammed with novels and coding manuals, it had always felt like a sanctuary. Yet tonight, the space seemed charged, alive, as if it were holding its breath with me. I walked over to the wardrobe, my fingers grazing the array of outfits I had carefully curated over months. Choosing one felt like a ritual. Every selection a tiny rebellion, a statement of who I could be behind the mask of Alex. Maybe tonight, maybe I can finally feel like myself, I murmured. I pulled out a delicate black dress, soft to the touch, hugging curves I patted to perfection. A thrill of anticipation ran through me as I set it against my body in the mirror, imagining the transformation that was about to occur. Every inch of fabric, every accessory, the silver earrings, the subtle necklace, the carefully styled wig, was a step closer to becoming Alexa, the persona that allowed me to explore the side of myself I had hidden from the world. But as the excitement bubbled within me, doubt crept in. What if I'm foolish? What if I'm caught? What if Alexa somehow finds out before she expects to? The questions gnawed at me, a whisper of fear beneath the thrill. Yet, somehow, the fear made it sweeter, sharper, more intoxicating. Sitting at my vanity, I began the transformation, starting with the subtle art of makeup. Foundation smoothed over the sharp angles of my face, blush added warmth, and mascara lengthened lashes that had never before felt so alive. I traced a delicate line of eyeliner along my eyelids, marveling at how each stroke seemed to awaken a version of me that had existed only in secret. Lips brushed with soft rose gloss completed the look, and for a fleeting moment, Alexa was fully real in the reflection. "You look beautiful," I whispered, voice barely audible, a tremor of awe threading through the words. The wig was next, chestnut waves that framed my face perfectly, soft and luxurious, cascading over shoulders padded to perfection. I adjusted it carefully, aware that a crooked strand could shatter the illusion. High heels followed, clicking against the wooden floor, each step a small assertion of control and confidence I rarely allowed myself to feel as Alex. And there she was, Alexa. Every movement felt foreign and natural at the same time, a paradox that left my heart racing. The reflection in the mirror wasn't just a disguise, it was a revelation. For the first time in a long while, I felt seen by myself, understood by no one else. Yet, as the thrill of transformation enveloped me, the memory of yesterday's ridicule flared sharply. A casual joke at work, a snicker in the hallway, whispers that had followed me for weeks, laughter that cut deeper than any blade. Alex had endured it silently, swallowing humiliation after humiliation. Alexa, however, demanded more. She demanded recognition, respect, and above all, a chance to exist fully, even if the world mocked her. They laughed at me, but I won't hide anymore, I murmured, taking a deep breath and holding my chin high. It was in that moment, standing before the mirror, that I realized the stakes of this secret life. Every choice I made, every outfit, every public appearance, every interaction could either expose me or affirm Alexa's existence. And tonight, alone in our apartment, was the first step toward embracing it fully. The thrill was intoxicating, the fear electrifying. I twirled in front of the mirror, feeling the skirt flare gently, the heels grounding me yet lifting me simultaneously. Alexa was alive, breathing, pulsing through every inch of my body. And for the first time, I felt a sense of empowerment I had never experienced as Alex. Just then, my phone buzzed on the vanity table. A message from Alexa. Working late. Don't do anything too crazy. I smiled, a mixture of relief and guilt twisting in my stomach. Alone, yet not completely, I realized the duality of this life I was leading. Alex and Alexa were entwined, inseparable, each feeding and challenging the other. The journey ahead would be fraught with fear, exhilaration, and exposure. But in this quiet apartment, under the soft glow of the bedside lamp, I had taken the first step. Alexa had emerged. And for the first time in years, I was no longer hiding. The next morning, sunlight spilled lazily through the apartment blinds, painting golden stripes across the floor. I lay in bed, heels neatly tucked beneath the nightstand, wig still resting carefully on its stand, and Alexa's dress hanging like a trophy in the corner. The memory of last night's transformation lingered, like a warm, electric hum under my skin. But sunlight also brought clarity, and with it, a creeping fear. Could I really live this double life? Alex, the quiet software analyst, had never dared to express even a fraction of what Alexa represented. Yet every fiber of my being longed to step into that world again. The exhilaration was addictive, intoxicating, and terrifying. I spent the morning in a haze, thinking through the logistics. My apartment was a safe zone, but outside, the world was a predator, quick to judge, slow to forgive. Alexa had to remain a secret, hidden yet tangible, a version of myself that I could explore only in carefully chosen moments. Every decision now carried weight, outfits, interactions, even casual glances in the mirror. You can't let them see you, I whispered to my reflection, Alex's voice trembling slightly, while Alexis smirked back, confident, untouchable. The contrast between us had never been so stark. Alex was cautious, hesitant, weighed down by self-consciousness and fear of ridicule. Alexa, by contrast, demanded attention, thriving on poise, grace, and the thrill of existing fully. The duality thrilled and terrified me simultaneously. After breakfast, I decided to test Alexa further. Alone in the apartment, I carefully selected a new outfit, a flowing pastel dress, delicate pearl earrings, and soft pumps. The act of choosing felt ceremonial, deliberate, as though I were painting a canvas I had never dared to reveal. Each accessory was a brushstroke in the portrait of a self I had long hidden. The transformation began again, methodical, intimate. Foundation and blush smoothed Alex's sharp angles into softer contours. Eyeliner traced the curve of my eyes. Mascara lengthened lashes I had never known could look so alive. Lip gloss completed the look, and the wig, soft waves cascading over my shoulders, gave Alexa her final, tangible form. You're here, I whispered to the reflection. Finally, fully alive. The thrill of standing in front of the mirror, seeing Alexa inhabit my body with such confidence, sent shivers down my spine. I spun slowly, feeling the dress flare, the heels ground me, and the persona take hold. Every nerve vibrated with exhilaration and fear, a cocktail of emotions I couldn't control and didn't want to. Yet even in this private sanctuary, doubt crept in. The memory of laughter, of whispers, of scorn from others, lingered like a shadow. Could Alexa truly survive in the outside world? Or was this merely a fantasy, a fragile illusion poised to shatter the moment someone else glimpsed the truth? I thought of Alexa, her teasing smile and supportive yet challenging presence. She had always encouraged me, in her way, to explore the edges of my identity. But the thought of her discovering Alexa unprepared, or worse, judging me, sent a shiver down my spine. My heart raced as I envisioned the worst-case scenarios: ridicule, heartbreak, exposure, and the fear was intoxicating. Determined to confront my anxiety, I decided to take a small risk. A short walk outside, just around the block, in full Alexa attire. The streets were quiet, the morning calm, yet every shadow and passerby felt like a potential observer, a judge. The act of stepping outside, of presenting Alexa in public, even briefly, was both terrifying and liberating. Heels clicked against the pavement with deliberate rhythm. My body adjusted to the unfamiliar posture, the gentle sway of the dress, the weight of the wig. Every step was a negotiation between Alex and Alexa, caution and daring, fear and exhilaration. "You can do this," I murmured, whispering to both halves of myself. "Just a few steps. Test the waters." The city watched, indifferent yet alive, reflecting my uncertainty back at me in glass windows and puddles. Each reflection reminded me of the duality I carried, the fragile balance between hiding and revealing. And yet, with every passing moment, Alexa's confidence grew, unfurling like a flag in a quiet storm. Returning to the apartment, I felt a mix of triumph and vulnerability. Alexa had survived exposure, however minimal, and I had faced the first public test of my secret life. But the thrill was tempered by the knowledge that this was only the beginning. The outside world would be less forgiving than a quiet neighborhood street. There would be laughter, scrutiny, and judgment. And I would have to navigate it, balancing Alex's caution with Alexa's daring, fear with exhilaration. Sitting at the vanity, heels off, dress draped carefully, I reflected on the paradox. Alex had always hidden, feared judgment, lived quietly. Alexa demanded visibility, daring, and courage. The two of us could coexist, but the path would be perilous, exhilarating, and utterly transformative. "They laughed at me," I whispered, voice small but fierce. "But I've found something true." In that moment, I realized that Alexa wasn't merely a disguise or a secret indulgence. She was a revelation, a side of myself long suppressed but finally allowed to breathe. And for the first time, I felt an unshakable certainty. This was only the beginning of a journey that would redefine everything: identity, love, fear, and desire. The following day, the city felt different. Streets, cafes, and office buildings seemed charged with possibility, each glance from a passerby a potential judgment or an invitation. Alexa had survived the first brief venture outside, but now the challenge was bigger. Longer exposure, subtler observation, and the constant awareness that one misstep could unravel everything. I stood in front of the mirror once more, Alex's hands trembling slightly as they adjusted the wig, smoothed the dress, and slipped into the heels. The reflection staring back was confident, poised, and intoxicating, yet every inch of my mind raced with doubt. Could I maintain this persona under pressure? Would Alexa ever truly understand, or would she be disappointed? "You've done this before," I whispered, trying to steady my breath. "Just a little longer. Just a little braver." The apartment, normally a sanctuary, now felt like a staging ground for battle. Every accessory, every movement, every layer of makeup carried weight. Alexa wasn't just a costume. She was a second life, a daring alter ego that demanded visibility and respect. I decided to push boundaries. The plan was simple yet terrifying: a trip to a small boutique downtown, pretending to browse for gifts while fully embodying Alexa. The thought of interacting with strangers, their unfiltered reactions, made my pulse race. Every step toward the elevator was a negotiation between caution and courage. Alex wanted to flee. Alexa wanted to conquer. The elevator ride was quiet but torturous. Each floor felt like a heartbeat, counting down to exposure or embarrassment. I gripped the bag in my hand tightly, imagining eyes on me, judgmental, curious, or amused. The thought of someone whispering behind my back, laughing at me, made my stomach twist. Yet beneath the fear, a thrill surged, the kind that comes from standing at the edge of something terrifying yet exhilarating. Once on the street, the real test began. Alexa walked with a measured rhythm, every step deliberate, every movement a statement. I kept my head high, smiled when passers-by glanced, and held my composure as the heels clicked against the pavement. The city seemed alive in a new way, observing me without comment, reflecting my internal tension in fleeting windows and shop glass. The boutique itself was small but welcoming. Soft music filled the space, mingling with the scent of fresh flowers and polished wood. I wandered through racks of clothing, letting my fingers brush against delicate fabrics, each touch a small assertion of Alexa's existence. Every glance from the boutique employees sent shivers through me. Curiosity, judgment, or mere coincidence, I couldn't tell. Relax, I muttered to myself, voice barely audible. You're just browsing. But browsing felt like performance. Every movement, every choice of garment, every adjustment of a sleeve or hem was a message. Alexa existed, and she was unapologetic. It wasn't long before tension escalated. A couple of customers entered the store, chatting casually, unaware of the fragile battle I was fighting internally. Yet their laughter, casual remarks, and glances reminded me of all the times Alex had been ridiculed, laughed at, or ignored. Every giggle, even unintentional, felt magnified, pressing against my skin like a physical weight. A slip of the heel on the polished floor startled me, and I nearly dropped a delicate scarf I had been examining. Heat flushed my face, a mixture of embarrassment and adrenaline. Alexa's composure faltered for a brief second, but I steadied myself, taking a deep breath. They laughed at me before, but now, I won't let them define me, I whispered. The statement wasn't just for me. It was for Alexa, for Alex, for every part of me that had hidden, shrunk, and feared judgment. The act of standing, faltering, and regaining poise was a declaration. Alexa wasn't fragile. She was resilient. And this world, the judgmental, curious, and often cruel world, would have to recognize her existence on her terms. After the boutique, I walked a little longer, savoring the thrill of exposure. Each passerby who glanced, each small smile or nod, was a minor victory. Every step in heels, every adjustment of the dress, every flick of the wig was a heartbeat of defiance. Alexa had navigated a public space without incident, yet the awareness of potential scrutiny lingered, a shadow over the triumph. Returning home, I felt a mix of exhaustion, exhilaration, and anticipation. The adrenaline lingered in my veins, an intoxicating reminder that this life, secret, daring, and exhilarating, was far from simple. Alex could no longer ignore Alexa. The two halves of myself had begun to merge, each feeding the other, each challenging the other, each demanding recognition. Sitting at the vanity, heels off, wig set carefully, I reflected on the day. I had survived exposure, embarrassment, and the thrill of public scrutiny. Yet the memory of laughter, whispers of judgment past, and potential reminded me that the world outside was never forgiving. Alexa had emerged victorious, but Alex's fear lingered, a tether to caution and strategy. They laughed at me, but I found something real, I murmured. And now, I'm ready for the next step. Evenings settled over the city, like a velvet curtain, and the apartment felt smaller, more intimate. Alexa stood in front of the mirror again, adjusting the hem of her dress. The day's public outing had left me exhilarated yet emotionally drained. Every glance, every whisper, even accidental, felt magnified in my mind. But the experience had also strengthened Alexa's presence. She was becoming real, undeniable, and no longer a fragile secret. You did it today, I whispered, voice trembling with pride. You walked among them and survived. Yet survival didn't erase fear. The memory of last week's ridicule at the office haunted me, Alex had been the target of laughter, jokes that lingered in break rooms, and whispers that followed me long after the incident. I remembered their faces, their amused smirks, and a pang of anger shot through me. Alexa's existence was an act of defiance, rebellion against judgment. But the shadow of exposure loomed over every step. Tonight's challenge was self-imposed. I wanted to push boundaries further, to explore Alexa's identity more fully. The plan, a short walk to the neighborhood cafe. Alone, vulnerable, yet visible. My heart thumped in anticipation, excitement battling anxiety in a delicate dance. Every preparation, makeup, hair, dress, accessories, was meticulous, deliberate, an armor of elegance and confidence. As I stepped outside, the world felt magnified. Streetlights illuminated wet pavement from the afternoon drizzle, and shadows danced along the buildings. Every passerby was a potential observer, a silent judge, a threat to the fragile persona I was nurturing. Yet with each step, a sense of liberation surged. Alexa had survived indoors and in the boutique. Now, she was stepping fully into the outside world, claiming her place. At the cafe, the barista greeted me with a friendly smile. I forced a smile back, heels clicking softly against the tile floor. The act of ordering, casual, simple, felt like walking a tightrope. Every word, every gesture, could betray Alex's nervousness or Alexa's poise. I held my breath, hoping my hands weren't trembling visibly, praying my voice carried the right tone. "One latte, please," I said, heart hammering, trying to steady my voice. The barista nodded kindly, unaware of the storm raging beneath my calm exterior. I took a seat near the window, heels crossed neatly, fingers intertwined in my lap. Observing the world outside, I noticed how people moved, laughed, whispered, and realized how small, fragile, and yet bold Alexa's existence was within it. As I sipped the latte, a group of coworkers walked past the cafe. My chest tightened. Alex recognized them instantly, panic threatening to eclipse Alexa's confidence. One of them glanced in, and I froze. Would they recognize me? Would they laugh? My mind spun with possibilities, imagining whispers behind their hands, mocking glances, judgmental smirks. But then I realized something crucial. Alexa had power too. My heart rate steadied as I straightened my posture, letting confidence seep into every movement. If they noticed, they would see Alexa poised, graceful, undeniable. The fear of ridicule was strong, yet the exhilaration of claiming space and presence was stronger. "They can laugh," I whispered to the reflection in the cafe window. "But I'm not hiding anymore." Returning home, I felt a shift within myself. Alexa wasn't merely a persona. She was a revelation, a part of me that demanded to exist. Every glance in the mirror, every step in heels, every flutter of makeup and wig reinforced this truth. And yet, the world outside remained a minefield. Laughter, judgment, and ridicule could strike at any moment. At the apartment, I began preparing for a private reflection ritual, a journal, soft music, and dim lighting. Writing down my thoughts, Alex's fears, Alexa's desires, I explored the duality that defined my life. The words flowed: anxiety, excitement, shame, pride, exhilaration. Each sentence was a step toward understanding, a bridge between the halves of myself struggling to coexist. "They laughed at me," I wrote, voice shaking as I traced the letters. "But I found something real, and I won't let it go." The ritual ended with a lingering glance in the mirror. Alexa's reflection stared back, fierce and alive. The heels, dress, wig, and makeup were more than tools of transformation. They were symbols of courage, defiance, and self-expression. The internal battle, Alex versus Alexa, had not ended, but a truce was forming, fragile yet promising. Yet suspense remained. A knock on the door startled me. Unannounced, unexpected. My heart leapt. Who could it be? A neighbor? Alexa returning early? Someone from the outside world, observing my delicate balance? Anxiety gripped me as I approached slowly, hand trembling on the doorknob. "Maybe it's just nothing," I whispered, trying to steady my racing heart. Peering through the peephole, I saw no one. Just an empty hallway, silent and unthreatening. But the moment lingered, a reminder that Alexa's existence was precarious, that danger, real or imagined, could arrive without warning. Sitting back, I realized the day had marked a turning point. Alexa had ventured further into the world, faced judgment, navigated fear, and discovered her own strength. But the shadows of exposure and ridicule were never far away, waiting to test every step of her journey. "They laughed at me," I whispered, a shiver of both fear and exhilaration running through me. "But now they'll see who I truly am." The weekend arrived with a mixture of relief and anxiety. For weeks, Alex had navigated the monotony of work, the subtle whispers of ridicule, and the thrill of private transformations. Now, Alexa's presence demanded more. The apartment, usually a sanctuary, felt simultaneously comforting and confining, a space where secrecy clashed with desire. "How far can I go?" I whispered to the mirror, tracing the curve of my jaw. "How much of me can they see before it all collapses?" The morning was slow, deliberate. I dressed in a light lavender dress, soft and flowing, with heels that clicked deliberately against the wooden floor. Accessories were chosen with care, a delicate bracelet, pearl earrings, and the wig that had become a crown for Alexa's emerging identity. Every item reinforced confidence, every choice a statement. I existed, fully, and I wouldn't retreat. Venturing outside, the world felt different. Streets that were familiar now carried weight, each passerby a potential observer of the truth I had begun to embody. The thrill of walking as Alexa, fully visible, fully alive, mingled with the fear that someone might recognize Alex in the past, laugh, or judge. Every step was a negotiation, a delicate dance of exposure and concealment. I passed a small park where children played, parents chatted, and joggers hurried by. My heels clicked against the pavement, soft against the background of laughter and movement. Alexa walked with grace, hips swaying naturally, shoulders straight, head high. And yet, beneath the poise, Alex trembled, the fear of ridicule gnawing at my confidence. "They laughed at me before, now it's my turn to be seen," I murmured, voice barely audible, trembling with both excitement and fear. The day's Real challenge arrived unexpectedly. A neighbor I barely knew stepped onto the sidewalk, pausing mid-step, observing me with an inscrutable expression. Heart racing, I forced a smile, hoping Alexa's confidence would mask Alex's terror. "Good morning," I said, voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through my veins. The neighbor nodded politely, said a few words about the weather, and continued walking. But the encounter, though brief and harmless, left my heart pounding. The realization hit. Even casual exposure could unravel months of careful secrecy. Every small interaction was a high-stakes gamble, and Alexa was learning to navigate it with poise, resilience, and courage. Returning home, I reflected on the duality of my life. Alex was cautious, anxious, fearful of judgment. Alexa was daring, radiant, commanding attention without apology. The two sides coexisted uneasily, each feeding the other, challenging the other, and shaping the person I was becoming. The thrill of exposure, the tension of potential discovery, and the exhilaration of self-expression had become intertwined, inseparable and intoxicating. "They laughed at me," I whispered to the mirror. "But now, I am the one who will shine." The evening brought another test. Alexa had mentioned she might return early, and the knowledge set my nerves alight. What if she walked in while I was fully Alexa? What if she judged me, laughed, or, worst of all, misunderstood? The uncertainty added a tangible weight, a suspenseful tension that made every movement, every decision, critical. I paced the apartment, heels clicking softly against the floor, makeup immaculate, dress flowing perfectly. Alexa was alive, vibrant, confident. Yet Alex's anxiety lingered, a shadow at the edges of exhilaration. The anticipation of possible discovery heightened the thrill, turning the ordinary apartment into a stage for high-stakes drama. Hours passed, each moment stretching with suspense. I busied myself with small tasks, arranging books, adjusting decor, straightening the dress, each act a rehearsal for visibility. The apartment, once a private haven, now felt like a public arena, each shadow a potential observer, each sound a signal of incoming scrutiny. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. Alexa's footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heart hammering, I froze, heels planted firmly on the floor, hands trembling slightly. She paused at the door, the key turning in the lock. Every second stretched endlessly, a suspenseful dance of fear and exhilaration. They laughed at me, I whispered under my breath, gripping the edge of the vanity. But now let them see me. Alexa stepped inside, unaware yet fully present. Her eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise, before her usual teasing smile appeared. Well, someone looks different today, she said, voice light, teasing, yet tinged with curiosity. Relief, excitement, and nervous anticipation surged simultaneously. The challenge had been met, Alexa had been seen, briefly acknowledged, and survived. But the day's suspense had only amplified the stakes. The world was watching, judgment loomed, and Alexa was learning that courage, poise, and defiance were not just options. They were necessities. The following evening, the apartment was quiet, almost oppressively so. Shadows stretched across the walls, and the faint hum of the city outside reminded me that the world was still out there, waiting, watching, judging. Alexa stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress one last time. Every detail mattered. The wig, the makeup, the shoes, the posture. Each element was a shield, a declaration, and a promise that she would not be diminished. Tonight is different, I whispered, Alex's voice tinged with anxiety. I can feel it. Something is coming. The tension was palpable. Alexa had grown more confident, more daring, but the thrill of exposure carried with it a heavy weight. The apartment, usually a safe haven, now felt like a precarious stage where every movement could lead to discovery. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant sound from neighbors, made my heart jump. A notification pinged on my phone, a message from Alexa. Might be late tonight, but don't make a mess. Relief surged momentarily, quickly replaced by an unfamiliar tension. Even alone, the apartment felt charged, alive with anticipation. I moved carefully, heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor, each step deliberate, every movement rehearsed. Alexa thrived in this environment, graceful and poised, yet Alex's anxiety lurked beneath, a constant reminder of vulnerability. They laughed at me, I murmured, voice trembling slightly. But I won't let them define me. Not tonight. Deciding to test myself further, I took Alexa for a brief walk outside, a daring venture into the night. Streetlights cast long shadows, the evening air cool against my skin. Every passerby seemed magnified, every glance scrutinizing, every whisper amplified in my mind. The thrill of walking as Alexa, fully visible and fully alive, was exhilarating, but the fear of exposure was sharper than ever. Passing a small convenience store, a group of teenagers leaned against the wall, laughing and joking. My heart lurched, Alex's instincts screaming to retreat. Yet Alexa pressed on, heels clicking against the pavement, dress flowing gracefully, wig perfectly in place. Every second was a negotiation, fear versus daring, caution versus freedom, Alex versus Alexa. They laughed at me, I whispered under my breath, a mantra, a promise. But I'm still standing. Returning home, the tension inside me refused to dissipate. Alexa's confidence had grown, but the stakes had never felt higher. I moved carefully through the apartment, heels soft against the floor, adjusting the dress, checking the wig, making sure every detail was perfect. The shadows seemed to shift, the apartment alive with suspense. Each creak of the floorboard was a potential threat, a reminder that discovery could come at any moment. To calm myself, I sat at the vanity and reflected. Alexa had become more than a persona. She was a revelation, a part of me that demanded recognition. Alex's fear, while real, had begun to yield to courage, and a fragile balance emerged. But the tension of living a double life, of risking exposure at any moment, had reached its peak. "Tonight could change everything," I whispered. "Or nothing at all." Then the unexpected happened. A soft knock echoed through the apartment, deliberate, measured. My heart raced, adrenaline surging through my veins. The knock was followed by a familiar voice, "Alexa," unexpectedly early. My body froze, Alex's instinct screaming to hide, while Alexa's poise demanded composure. "Hey, you in there?" Alexa called, playful yet curious. The door rattled slightly, and I had seconds to decide. Panic surged, the culmination of weeks of fear, exposure, and exhilaration. Every heartbeat felt like a drum, counting down to potential discovery. Should I retreat, change back, hide? Or face the moment fully as Alexa, letting the world, or at least Alexa, see me without apology? Heels planted firmly, posture straight, I approached the door. Alexa was ready, confident, alive. And in that suspended moment, I realized the truth. The fear of judgment would always exist, but so would the thrill, the liberation, the undeniable identity that had emerged from ridicule, secrecy, and daring. They laughed at me, but I found myself, I whispered, gripping the doorknob. "And now they'll have to see it." With a deep breath, I turned the knob. The door swung open, and Alexa's eyes widened. The suspense, the tension, the fear, and the exhilaration converged in that single heartbeat. Everything I had built, every secret and revelation, hung in the balance. The door was open, and Alexa's eyes met mine. A flicker of surprise passed across her face, but her teasing smile lingered. Alexa's heart raced, poised and confident outwardly, yet inside, every nerve screamed with tension. Weeks of secret exploration had led to this single moment. Full exposure, complete vulnerability. "Wow, you look different," Alexa said, tilting her head, curiosity and amusement in her tone. I forced a smile, heels clicking softly as I adjusted my dress. Every muscle was tense, every breath calculated. Alexa wasn't just a persona, she was a declaration, a test, a challenge. And now, face to face with Alexa, that challenge was at its peak. "I thought I'd try something new," I replied, voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding my veins. "Just for tonight." Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, but I sensed a hint of scrutiny beneath the surface. Alexa had always been perceptive, quick to notice shifts in behavior, subtle changes in appearance. This was no ordinary moment. A simple smile or glance could unravel weeks of careful secrecy. Inside the apartment, the tension became almost tangible. Every sound, the hum of the fridge, the distant traffic, the soft swish of the dress, felt amplified. Alexa moved closer, her eyes scanning, observing, judging. My heart pounded in my chest, a chaotic drumbeat of fear and exhilaration. "Is this really you?" she asked, her voice a mixture of surprise and curiosity. I nodded, a small but deliberate gesture, heels clicking again as I shifted weight. Alexa's poise was perfect, but inside, Alex's fear burned fiercely. The stakes were no longer abstract. They were immediate, pressing, unavoidable. If Alexa rejected this, laughed, or ridiculed me, the fragile confidence Alexa had built could shatter instantly. A sudden knock on the apartment door sent a jolt through me. My pulse spiked. Who could it be at this hour? Another neighbor? A delivery? The unknown threat loomed, magnifying the stakes of the evening. Alexa's body froze, poised yet tense, as I moved slowly toward the door. "I'll get it," Alexa said with a casual shrug, stepping back slightly. The seconds stretched endlessly. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum in the apartment, every second thick with suspense. My mind raced. What if it's someone who could recognize Alex? What if exposure isn't just playful teasing, but catastrophic judgment? I reached the door, hand trembling slightly. Peering through the peephole, relief and terror mingled. It was a delivery person, routine and harmless. But the scare had heightened awareness, every sense sharpened, every nerve on edge. Alexa's composure had survived the first threat, but now the emotional tension was at its highest. Returning to the living room, I faced Alexa again. The unspoken challenge hung between us, acceptance or judgment. I felt the weight of weeks of secrecy, the thrill of transformation, and the fear of ridicule all converge in a single moment. Every glance from her eyes was a test, every word a potential verdict. "You look amazing," she said finally, a teasing grin breaking through. "I didn't know you had this side." Relief flooded through me, but it was tempered by adrenaline. Alexa's existence was acknowledged, yes, but now the stakes had shifted. Her confidence was exposed, under scrutiny, and fully visible. The world outside the apartment, judgment, curiosity, ridicule, no longer seemed distant. We moved to the sofa, conversation flowing but laced with tension. Every gesture, every laugh, every subtle glance carried weight. Alexa had to maintain composure, project confidence, and navigate the delicate balance between revealing too much and remaining enticingly enigmatic. Every movement in heels, every shift of the dress, was an assertion of identity, a delicate negotiation between fear and pride. "I never imagined," Alexa began, then paused, her gaze lingering. "You really look like yourself in a way I didn't expect." The words sent a shiver through me. Alexa thrived in acknowledgement, yet the exposure was terrifying. What if the world outside, coworkers, friends, strangers, reacted less kindly? What if ridicule or judgment returned, sharper and more cutting than ever? The stakes had never been higher. Then, an unexpected sound, a soft click from the hallway, made both of us freeze. The door was slightly ajar. Someone could walk in at any moment. Alexa's heart pounded. Alex's mind screamed to retreat, to hide, to change back instantly. But there was no time. Every second was a test of courage, every heartbeat a gamble. "Stay calm," I whispered, barely audible. "You can handle this." The moment stretched. Shadows moved across the walls, and the faint hum of the city outside was a backdrop to the high-stakes drama inside. Alexa's presence, poised and undeniable, faced the ultimate test: composure under immediate threat, vulnerability without retreat, courage in the face of potential judgment. The soft click from the hallway still echoed in my ears, each second stretching like hours. Alexa's heels tapped lightly against the wooden floor as I shifted, instinctively moving closer to Alexa. The thrill of the night had reached a fever pitch, and the fear of exposure was almost tangible. "Did you hear that?" Alexa whispered, her voice low, tinged with curiosity and unease. I nodded subtly, feeling my heartbeat quicken. The apartment, usually a safe haven, now felt like a stage for suspense, every shadow a potential threat, every sound a warning. The adrenaline coursing through me was intoxicating, but it sharpened every sense, every perception, every instinct. "It's probably nothing," I said, trying to steady my voice, though every fiber of Alex's being screamed caution. Suddenly, the doorknob rattled violently. Panic surged. Alexa froze, heels planted firmly, posture rigid. This wasn't a casual knock. It was urgent, insistent, demanding attention. My mind raced: a neighbor? A delivery? Or worse, someone from work recognizing Alex? "Stay calm," I muttered under my breath. "Just stay calm." Alexa, sensing the tension, moved subtly behind me, her hand brushing against my shoulder. Her presence was grounding, yet also a reminder that exposure was now imminent. Whoever was at the door could see everything. The secret that had been carefully nurtured, hidden behind layers of confidence and makeup, was at risk of unraveling. I took a deep breath and moved toward the door. Alexa's body felt heavy with anticipation, yet light with exhilaration. The act of opening the door was both terrifying and liberating, the culmination of weeks of secret exploration and self-discovery. Peering through the peephole, I saw a familiar face, my coworker, Jordan. Relief mixed instantly with dread. Jordan wasn't hostile, but he had a sharp eye, always noticing small details others missed. If he recognized Alex and Alexa, the implications could ripple through my carefully constructed world. I need to see if he's alone, I whispered to myself, weighing the options. I opened the door cautiously. Jordan looked surprised but not judgmental. His eyes scanned the apartment, then lingered on me. Hey, he said, voice uncertain. I didn't expect to see you like this. My pulse thundered. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Every second stretched, every heartbeat counted. Alexa had to navigate this interaction with poise, projecting confidence without arrogance, defiance without hostility. Alexa stepped forward slightly, a teasing smirk on her face. Surprise visitor, she said casually, as if to diffuse tension. Jordan's gaze shifted between us, curiosity evident. He tilted his head, a subtle smile forming. I didn't mean to intrude, he said, voice softer. I just wanted to drop something off. The package in his hands felt symbolic, a tangible object amidst the intangible tension. Alexa maintained composure, every gesture deliberate, every breath measured. Alex's fear simmered beneath the surface, but it no longer dominated. The thrill of exposure mingled with a newfound resilience, the realization that I could face judgment and remain unbroken. Jordan lingered a moment longer, scanning the apartment, then nodded politely. I see. Well, nice seeing you, he said, finally turning to leave. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving a reverberating silence. The adrenaline coursing through me began to subside, replaced by a shaky exhilaration. Alexa had faced scrutiny, survived, and emerged stronger. Every glance, every whisper, every second of fear had been a crucible, forging confidence and resilience. They laughed at me, I whispered to the empty apartment, voice trembling with pride and relief. But I'm stronger now. Alexa turned to me, her eyes softening. You handled that beautifully, she said. I was worried for a second, but you didn't falter. Her words washed over me, grounding yet empowering. The climax of the night had arrived. Exposure, suspense, fear, and exhilaration, and Alexa had survived. The balance between Alex's caution and Alexa's daring had shifted definitively. I was no longer just hiding. I was thriving, visible yet unapologetic, fragile yet resilient. This feels like the beginning, I murmured, smiling softly. Not the end. The apartment felt impossibly small now, every shadow stretching long across the walls. The night had shifted into a delicate tension, a balance between exhilaration and fear. Alexa stood near the window, the faint glow of city lights outlining her silhouette. The heels clicked softly as she shifted weight, dress swaying with each careful movement. Every sound, distant traffic, a neighbor's laugh, even her own breathing, carried the potential to betray Alex's secret. One wrong move, I whispered under my breath, and everything collapses. The adrenaline from the evening's encounters with Alexa and Jordan still coursed through me. Alexa's confidence was growing, yet Alex's caution remained, a persistent undercurrent of anxiety. Every reflection in the glass, every glance at the mirror, reminded me that two worlds were colliding, the private, hidden Alex, and the daring, visible Alexa. Suddenly, a sharp knock rattled the door. My heart leapt. The unexpected intrusion heightened the suspense, a reminder that exposure could strike at any moment. Alexa froze, posture perfect but body tense. Heels anchored firmly on the floor, I debated internally. Face it directly or hide. You can't back down now, I whispered, summoning courage. Alexa, you can handle this. Alexa, sensing my tension, moved beside me. Her presence was grounding, yet the threat remained immediate. Whoever stood outside could disrupt the delicate equilibrium, unraveling weeks of careful secrecy in a single instant. Should I answer it? I asked, voice barely audible. Her teasing smirk was reassuring. Only if you're ready, she said. I approached the door slowly, fingers trembling slightly on the handle. The hallway beyond was dim, every shadow amplified by the soft apartment lighting. Peering through the peephole, I saw movement, a silhouette, familiar yet mysterious, and my pulse surged. The suspense was nearly unbearable. When the door opened, it revealed another unexpected visitor. My boss, Mr. Kendrick. Anxiety spiked immediately. He wasn't hostile, but he had a reputation for noticing the smallest details and for being unusually judgmental. This was no ordinary encounter. The stakes of my dual identity, Alex and Alexa, were suddenly sky-high. I didn't expect anyone tonight, I stammered, voice caught between Alex's fear and Alexa's composure. Mr. Kendrick's eyes scanned the apartment, pausing on me. A smile, unreadable and calculating, spread across his face. "You're dressed differently," he said carefully. "Interesting choice." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Alexa's heart raced, yet her posture remained impeccable. Every fiber of Alex's being screamed panic, but the persona I had cultivated refused to crumble. Alexa, sensing the delicate tension, stepped forward slightly, her eyes playful yet alert. "He's just surprised," she whispered softly, a subtle nudge of reassurance. I nodded slightly, taking a deep breath. Alexa's existence, confident, visible, unapologetic, faced its most critical test. Every gesture, every word, every subtle movement could determine whether this encounter became a catastrophe or a triumph. "It's me," I said finally, voice steady. "Alex or Alexa, depending on how you see it." The room was thick with tension. Mr. Kendrick paused, then chuckled softly. "Well, I can appreciate boldness," he said, voice measured. "But this is new." The next few minutes were a delicate dance. Mr. Kendrick lingered, observing every movement, every subtle shift in posture, every nuance of appearance. Alexa had to remain poised, projecting confidence while managing internal chaos. Each heartbeat felt amplified, each breath calculated. Exposure had become immediate, personal, and unavoidable. "Stay calm," I whispered under my breath. "You can handle this. You've survived before, you'll survive now." Eventually, Mr. Kendrick nodded, seemingly satisfied, and departed with a polite smile. The door clicked shut, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Relief surged through me, tempered by lingering adrenaline. Alexa had navigated the ultimate test of composure, exposure, and suspense, but the emotional intensity remained. I sank into the sofa, legs crossed carefully, adjusting the hem of my dress. Heels still on, makeup perfect, wig slightly shifted but intact. Alexa was alive, confident, visible. Alex's fear had not vanished entirely, but it had become a tool, a reminder that caution and poise could coexist. "They laughed at me," I murmured, voice shaking with emotion. "But now, I've survived every test." The night had pushed boundaries, challenged identity, and tested courage. The balance between Alex and Alexa was no longer precarious. It was refined, resilient, and undeniable. Every challenge faced, every threat survived, had strengthened the persona I had nurtured in secrecy. Yet suspense lingered. Every knock, every shadow, every unexpected visitor reminded me that the journey was far from over. Alexa's existence was no longer hidden, but it remained a fragile triumph, constantly under threat from exposure, judgment, and ridicule. The climax had reached a pivotal peak, but the story's final moments, the symbolic revelation, the emotional turning point, were yet to come. "I'm ready," I whispered softly, gripping the armrest. "Whatever comes next, I can handle it." The apartment was silent now, yet the silence was heavy, almost oppressive. Alexa stood before the full-length mirror, her reflection a blend of courage and vulnerability. The events of the night, Alexa's teasing, Jordan's unexpected visit, Mr. Kendrick's scrutiny, had pushed every limit. Every heartbeat, every step, every glance had been a test, and now I was left to face myself fully. "Look at you," I whispered, fingers tracing the edge of the mirror. All this fear, all this doubt, and yet here you are. The reflection stared back, poised, elegant, defiant. Alexa's eyes sparkled, the makeup flawless, the wig perfectly positioned, the dress flowing naturally over curves that once felt foreign. But beneath the poise, Alex's anxieties lingered, a subtle tremor reminding me of how far I had come and how fragile this victory still was. A sudden sound, the soft creak of the floorboards, made me freeze. Alexa, curious as ever, stepped closer behind me. "You're staring at yourself a lot tonight," she said, her voice teasing but gentle. "Do you like what you see?" I swallowed hard, heels planted firmly, every muscle tense yet controlled. "I think I do," I admitted softly. "It's different. Scary but liberating." Her hand brushed lightly against my shoulder, grounding yet electrifying. The duality of my identity, Alex's fear and Alexa's confidence, now felt tangible, almost symbolic. Every movement, every breath, every glance in the mirror was a negotiation between the past and the present, the hidden and the visible. The moment became intensely physical as I adjusted my dress, feeling the smooth fabric against my skin, the subtle tension of the heels, the weight of the wig. Each sensation amplified the emotional stakes, merging fear with exhilaration, vulnerability with power. The mirror reflected more than just my image. It reflected weeks of struggle, secrecy, and self-discovery. "They laughed at me," I whispered, voice trembling slightly. "But now, I see me, really see me." Alexa leaned closer, her gaze both assessing and approving. "You've changed," she said softly, "and I think you're beautiful." The words struck deeply, resonating in a way that made my chest tighten with emotion. Alexa was no longer just a persona. She was a truth, a revelation that had survived ridicule, fear, and exposure. Every inch of vulnerability was now a badge of courage, every heartbeat a declaration of identity. Suddenly, a symbolic moment struck. The heel of my left shoe slipped slightly on the hardwood floor, sending a small jolt through me. For a heartbeat, I panicked. The minor slip threatened to reveal instability, vulnerability, and imperfection. But then I steadied myself, pressing a hand against the mirror for balance, and laughed softly. "Even when I stumble, I can recover," I murmured. The slip had become a metaphor. No matter the challenges, exposure, or ridicule, Alexa could endure, adapt, and remain strong. The thrill of survival, the exhilaration of being truly seen, and the empowerment of owning identity coalesced into a singular emotional climax. Alexa watched closely, curiosity and pride mingling in her expression. "You're unstoppable when you want to be," she said, voice low. The affirmation, gentle yet powerful, made my chest swell. Every fear, every hesitation, every secret had led to this moment of recognition, not just by others, but by myself. Alexa was real, unapologetic, and fully alive. "They laughed at me, but I'm not hiding anymore," I whispered, voice firm. "I'm me." The tension remained. Exposure, judgment, and uncertainty were never fully gone, but the balance had shifted. Confidence, poise, and acceptance now dominated. Alexa had faced the ultimate tests, survived scrutiny, and embraced the duality of identity with grace and courage. Yet the climax was not over. A final sound, the subtle buzz of the phone on the counter, reminded me that the world beyond the apartment was waiting. Messages, notifications, potential intrusions, the stakes of visibility extended far beyond the walls. Alexa was poised and strong, but every choice from this point forward would carry weight, consequence, and potential revelation. "I'm ready," I whispered, gripping the edge of the mirror. "Whatever comes next, I can face it." The night had pushed every boundary, blending suspense, fear, exhilaration, and self-discovery. The final moments, the symbolic resolutions, and the cliffhanger that awaited would define the next chapter. The city streets were alive with evening traffic, neon lights reflecting off wet pavement. Alexa's heels clicked against the sidewalk, each step deliberate, drawing attention without shame. The thrill of being visible in public was intoxicating and terrifying. Weeks of secrecy had built to this moment, where anonymity no longer protected me. Every passerby was a potential witness, every glance a judgment, every smile a threat or a compliment. "You can do this," I whispered under my breath. "No hiding now." The wind teased my hair, and the wig clung slightly in the humid air. My dress flowed with each step, a contrast of elegance and vulnerability. People passed by, some curious, others indifferent. Alexa had become a statement of identity, a blend of Alex's nervous caution and Alexa's bold confidence. The transformation was no longer confined to walls. It had spilled into the world. A cafe ahead offered a temporary pause, warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. I decided to sit, heels crossed neatly beneath the table, posture impeccable. The chair felt oddly foreign under Alexa's frame, yet natural at the same time, an intersection of two identities negotiating space. "You're doing great," I murmured softly, adjusting the hem of my dress. "Every step counts." Inside, patrons chatted casually, unaware of the internal storm I carried. Every movement, every adjustment, was calculated to maintain poise while managing anxiety. Even the simple act of ordering a coffee became a test of composure, the cashier's curious glance a potential minefield of recognition. Then, an unexpected encounter. A group of friends from work entered, laughing loudly. My heart lurched. Recognition was possible, exposure inevitable. Alexa froze momentarily, then pressed forward, shoulders back, chin high. Fear threatened to dominate, but the persona I had nurtured refused to yield. "Stay calm," I whispered. "You've faced worse. You can do this." The group glanced around, some noticing, some not. I met a few eyes briefly, letting Alexa's poise dominate my expression. Alex's instinct screamed retreat, but public exposure demanded courage. Every step, every movement, every subtle gesture was a declaration. I was visible, unashamed, alive. A sudden shout from across the street drew attention. A man had dropped his bag, spilling contents everywhere. People turned, some laughing, some helping. In that chaos, I felt a thrill, anonymity and exposure intertwined. Alexa moved instinctively, stepping forward to help, heels clicking on the asphalt. The act of assistance, mundane yet public, reinforced the duality of identity, visibility, action, and courage in the face of scrutiny. "Even here," I whispered, "I'm me. No apologies." The group from work had noticed briefly, but their attention waned as the street drama unfolded. Relief surged, tempered by adrenaline. Public exposure had tested every limit: fear, poise, visibility, judgment, and Alexa had survived. The thrill of navigating society fully visible, yet in complete control, was unlike anything I had experienced. By the time I returned to the sidewalk, the night had deepened, the city alive with lights and motion. Every passerby, every neon reflection, every distant honk reinforced the lesson. Exposure did not equal defeat. Judgment did not erase identity. Fear did not diminish courage. Alexa had survived the ultimate test: public scrutiny, real-time observation, and unplanned encounters, and emerged unbroken, radiant, and fully herself. "They laughed at me," I whispered softly, voice carrying over the hum of the city. "But I found me." As I continued down the bustling streets, heels clicking confidently, I realized that the climax had shifted from fear to empowerment. The suspense remained. The world could still judge, ridicule, or misunderstand, but the internal transformation was irreversible. I was no longer hiding. I was thriving. The neon lights reflected off the rain-slicked streets, casting a kaleidoscope of color across my dress. Each step echoed against the pavement, heels ringing out like a declaration. Alexa was here, visible, unashamed. Yet beneath the surface, a tension simmered. The night had tested every limit: private scrutiny, public exposure, unexpected encounters, and though I had survived, uncertainty still lingered. "I've come this far," I whispered, voice trembling slightly. But what comes next? The thrill of survival was intoxicating, yet fear remained a constant companion. Every passerby was a potential witness, every casual glance a possible judgment. The city pulsed around me, alive, indifferent, and endlessly unpredictable. Alexa's confidence had grown, but Alex's caution whispered reminders of fragility. Ahead, a shadow moved quickly, catching my attention. A figure lingered near the streetlight, just out of clear view. My pulse spiked. Who could it be? A stranger? Someone from my past? The unknown had a sharp edge, cutting through the glow of empowerment I had felt just moments ago. "Stay calm," I muttered, gripping the edge of my purse. "You've handled worse." Every instinct screamed to retreat, but Alexa refused. Exposure had become a choice, deliberate, bold, and undeniably visible. To run now would undo weeks of courage. To freeze would surrender to fear. I squared my shoulders and stepped forward, each movement deliberate, each breath measured. The figure stepped into the light. It was someone familiar, a face I didn't expect to see tonight. Alexa's friend, Marco. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of curiosity and something else I couldn't place. Recognition flickered in his eyes, a spark that sent adrenaline through my veins. "Alexa?" he asked, voice cautious. I froze. Did he know? Was he aware of the dual identity, the persona I had so carefully nurtured? Every moment stretched, thick with suspense, every heartbeat echoing like a drum. Alexa had faced scrutiny before, but now the stakes were higher than ever. Public judgment, personal exposure, the weight of secrecy, all converged in this single encounter. Alexa, who had followed discreetly at a distance, stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand lightly on my shoulder. "It's okay," she whispered, her presence grounding yet electrifying. Marco's gaze shifted between us, uncertainty and curiosity mingling. Every word, every gesture, every glance carried weight. Alexa's heart raced, yet a thrill of empowerment coursed through her veins. The persona had survived scrutiny, ridicule, and exposure, but this encounter promised the ultimate test. "They laughed at me," I whispered under my breath, voice steady despite the fear. "But now I choose me." Before I could respond to Marco, a sudden noise echoed from the alley beside us. A cat, perhaps, or someone moving in the shadows. My pulse spiked. The unknown threat hung in the air, a reminder that danger, judgment, and exposure could appear without warning. Every second was a test, every glance a possible revelation. Alexa's poise remained intact, but beneath it, Alex's anxiety flared. "What do I do now?" I muttered internally, grappling with fear, thrill, and the raw exhilaration of visibility. Marco's eyes lingered, curiosity sharp, and he took a step closer. The tension was almost unbearable. Every instinct screamed caution, but Alexa's confidence refused to yield. The night had shifted from private revelation to public exposure, and now the ultimate uncertainty loomed: recognition, confrontation, or perhaps acceptance. As the rain began to fall again, droplets tracing the contours of my dress and slicking the streets beneath my heels, I realized the night was far from over. Every step I had taken, every choice I had made, had brought me here, alive, visible, and undeniably myself. Yet the shadows of the unknown stretched ahead, promising challenges, surprises, and choices that could alter everything. "I've survived the night," I whispered, voice carrying over the hum of the city. "But the real test is just beginning." The neon reflections danced across the pavement, flickering like uncertain possibilities. Marco lingered, his expression unreadable. Alexa's hand rested gently on my shoulder, grounding yet a reminder of the choices I had made. And somewhere in the shadows, the unknown waited: judgment, revelation, and the ultimate confrontation with identity. The city breathed around me, alive, unpredictable, and endlessly thrilling. Alexis stood poised at the edge of everything: fear, empowerment, and possibility. The heels clicked again, deliberate, confident, echoing into the unknown. And then a single, suspenseful moment froze the night. Marco reached forward, and the world seemed to hold its breath.